So let's just begin with exploration and engineering. So far, we discussed about the processes. These are also called as phases. There are 7 phases in a turn life cycle, also called as processes. Some of them are waterfall style, that is, they happen in sequence, like pre-project, feasibility, and foundation. And then we start the product development, which includes analysis, design, development, testing, reviews. That is actually iterative development. And then once the product is completed, we go through the deployment phase. As part of deployment, we put the product live. And then after the project is over, we do post project to review the benefits of project. We discussed about pre-project, where we discussed this is the time where we identify a business problem to be resolved. We identify sponsor, we identify the visionary, and we define the business drivers for the project. We document them in the terms of reference. It might not be a physical document, it might be an email, it might be a discussion between the stakeholders. Then once we check the terms of reference and make sure it is understood and defined, we go into the next phase, which is feasibility, which is where we do the investigation of how the project, sorry, if, whether the project work is feasible. I mean, the solution is feasible, and whether we have enough funding, and if it is good enough from business point of view. As a result, we prepare a feasibility assessment, which tells the technology feasibility as well as business feasibility and management feasibility. And then we prepare an outline plan which says how the foundation, that is planning of project, will be done. We move into foundations phase, which is where we lay the foundations for business, that is the business case that justifies why this project is being done. The solution foundations, that tells what solution will be delivered, and the management foundation, which says how the solution will be delivered, that is the time, resources, costs, and efforts. Now the reporting will be done. Once foundations are completed, we move to exploration. As part of foundation, we also identify the project requirements and we capture them in prioritized requirements list. So you first identify all requirements, write them in a requirements list, and also get them prioritized using various techniques such as business value or Moscow. The must have are owned by the business visionary who owns the project requirements list. The should have, could have, empowerment for making decisions about them is provided to the solution development team. Once all these things are baseline and agreed upon, we move to exploration. As I said to you, exploration and engineering is actually the analysis, design, development, and testing phase of our project. We can take up exploration and engineering separately, or we can combine them. The often used model is to combine exploration and engineering. But let's just discuss about how exploration phase works. As we have the overall delivery plan that shows us the various releases, also called as increments, and we have each release divided into time box. So if my project is 6 months, to develop the website that offers online sale of products, I divide my project into 3 increments. You can also call them releases. And for each increment of 2 months, I have, let's say, 4 time boxes of 2 weeks each. As part of foundations, we create a high level schedule that shows the releases and the time boxes and the scope of features to be released within each release. We talk about the length of time boxes, which should be uniform throughout the project. So if it is 2 weeks, it's going to be 2 weeks throughout, and the length of time box does not get extended if you have not completed the requirement. What I mean is, if I have got a time box of 2 weeks, on the first day I define the targets for the time box. Each day, I track how I am performing against achieving the time box targets. And on the last day, that is on the 10th day, we look at what work has been done, do a demo to the customer or the business ambassador, get the feedback, and then also do retrospection. If any of the requirements of time box have not been completed, it doesn't mean that we extend the time box. It doesn't get extended by even one day. Now, exploration and engineering phases are done with the use of time boxes. So you divide your analysis, design, development into time boxes, and then in each time box, you do the work of each of these phases. Exploration phase is actually identifying the project requirements from the prioritized requirements list. So as we step into exploration, in the first time box through all the time boxes, each time box we go do further investigation of requirements. So we pick up user stories that were marked for that time box. On the first day we take the user stories, we go through with the business stakeholders about the further details and requirements and functionality that is required. We understand the business need, and then we create a functional solution, maybe a prototype, through iterative development to show business users how our solution meets their requirements. In turn terms, we actually create business area definition and system architecture definition. We also plan how the product will become operational. You might want to look at the data model, any transition or data migration requirement, or the metadata requirements. Sometimes that is used for creating a list of values, etc. The exploration phase in software world, you can say, for example, identifying the functional requirement, creating functional solutions, journeys, and how integration works. And in the engineering phase, we do the development and testing. So engineering phase is also delivered using set of time boxes. And within each time box, we pick up the solution that is evolving through exploration, and we build the solution by developing, for example, code, testing, reviews, and then get the solution ready so that it can be deployed on the production environment. Now, let's just go through a software life cycle. So, step one, I pick up a requirement. So, for example, the first time box. As we step inside the time box, first day we look at what things needs to be done during this time box. We bring all the business stakeholders like the visionary or the ambassadors together. We take each user story, like the user should be able to pay online. We ask them further details about what they have in mind. So, what's basically a functional requirement of payment solution, which type of payments to be supported, how the receipts will be printed, how the functionality should work, how the screen should look like, and so on. Once we understand the functional and non-functional requirement, we create a quick prototype to show them how it is going to look like. And then in the each iteration, we start developing more details to that prototype. And at the end of each iteration, we go back to the user, get feedback, and then build the next thing. So actually, we are doing analysis, design, development, testing, unit testing, formal technical reviews, and also developing release notes and production deployment notes as part of exploration and engineering phase. And the products of these time box plan that tells the 10 days, 20 days schedule that we are going to have time box. Like the size of time box could range between 2 weeks to 6 weeks, but not more than 6 weeks. So we write the time box plan, and the time box plan is written by the team leader with the help of team members. Project manager does not create time box. Project manager defines how many time box, the length of time box, and the priorities. So with the help of visionary. When the time box starts, the solution development team makes the time box plan. that shows how each time box, how objectives of each time box will be met, like breaking down into activities, who is doing what, efforts required, and the schedule, like dates, etc. Time box review record is actually the retrospection which happens on the last day of the time box. So if you have 10 days time box, first day you make a time box plan. Each day you review how you are performing against the plan, and on the last day you see how we perform against the plan, whether we delivered everything, whether we did not deliver, why we could not deliver, how efforts worked, how resourcing worked, and what lessons we have learned to improve in the next time box. Now, whether you keep minutes of meeting or you have a proper lessons document or a proper review document is up to your project environment and the formality. Generally, we have minutes of meetings to keep a record of what was discussed during the meeting. So you can call a meeting of teams, they can do the discussion, and we keep the notes. The deployment plan is actually the release plan, you can say, or you can also say release plan means release on the production environment. You can also call it installation scripts, release notes. You can also have any training plans that are required, any data migration plan, any backup restore strategies. Apart from that, any kind of constraints that we have, training documents, handovers, all of that is actually your delivery, the deployment plan. One of the subset of deployment plan also describes after the software is deployed, post project, how the benefits realization will be reviewed. Like every project, most projects in fact are done to get some benefits realization plan explains post project, the sponsor and visionary will undertake reviews. What reviews they should conduct, when they should conduct, what they should look at, what benefits to be measured. All of that is actually benefits realization plan. This is required because we might have delivered a solution that works within time and budget. But if we have not achieved any benefits from delivering the solution, then the project may be unsuccessful. And we need to know how we are investing and in which projects we are investing so that next time we can also improve upon the decisions that we take in investing on projects. Solution assurance pack is actually for the technical team. This is nothing but the project review, the formal technical review records. For example, we have various type of reviews. The developer himself or herself does some kind of reviews. Like we have some checklist, and they say they only check in the code once they have done their self review of coding standard, naming conventions, documentation that is required. Once this is done, maybe a peer review take place, and the peer review is about again having a standard checklist to see everything has been followed. And for complex modules which involve substantial functionality or efforts, we have formal technical reviews which are usually done by either a designer or a senior developer or a technical architect. Now, these people will again check how the code has been written, whether they have a good code practices been used. I mean, whether the good code practices have been used. Now, all of these could have some kind of a formal log you can keep. Like in our company, we have a log called as uh, review log. And in the review log, as and when work is completed, we make an entry. Code was reviewed by technical architect on date and what were the comments. So that we know that people are following certain processes that brings or that kind of, provides some kind of an assurance that the product will meet the required quality requirements. Solution assurance pack also involves the user acceptance test plan, test strategies, test cases, test results. So when system testing is done or integration testing is done or user acceptance testing is completed, you have your test packs like uh, uh, number of test cases or some scenarios to be tested, and then you also have your defect log, or few people call it triage, or few people call it kind of uh, or the UAT defect log or system test defect log. All of these comes under solution assurance pack. You can have your, again, you can call them your own names. We have evolving solution which is actually made up of many things. For example, if I'm doing website, the website design document, the website requirements document, the website layouts, database model, the code, all of that actually makes up my evolving solution. The prototypes, the business user and support documentation, like how to use this system. Any user manuals have been created along with screenshots on where to click and so on, or the videos. They are part of your business documentation. Whereas when I hand over the product to the support team, I also need to tell them how we have designed this system, what changes here we have made on the existing solution, how what coding has been completed, what functionality has been introduced, how to maintain the system. All such kind of thing also become part of evolving solution. So all your artifacts, you can also call them deliverables, you can also call them products, that are created as part of project requirements analysis or project designing or project development or project testing, are actually the deliverables of engineering exploration and engineering phases. It's just that the names here are a little different. Evolving solution is your product itself, and solution assurance pack is actually your technical quality review document, like audits or reviews that you conduct. Deployment plan is your production go live plan. For example, over the weekend, if you have to go live, what kind of systems needs to be backed up, what scripts are to be run, what data migration needs to be done, what kind of application deployment needs to be done. All of that is actually your deployment plan. You can combine the exploration and engineering phases, like you can have various ways of using exploration and engineering. For example, you can only do exploration time boxes for let's say on my project I have got 4 time boxes in the release one. In the first time box I can just do exploration, and in the next time box again I do exploration. So I first take the requirements, make a prototype, again I refine the prototype, and then in the next 2 time boxes I do development and testing. So you just follow the standard waterfall style structure, like analysis, design, development, testing. So how does agile work here? We time box each of the activities. So instead of going and doing endless requirements and design documentation or designing, we make sure that we basically do it over a period of over a specified timelines, and then we keep checking with the customer at the end of each time box. You can even have combination of exploration and engineering. This is the most common style. This is how the Scrum sprint also works. This is actually doing one feature at a time. So you just take payments. Instead of doing all analysis about payments, you can do a little bit of analysis, design, development, testing. So for example, only PayPal goes live in the first release, and in the second release you support cards, and in the next release you support printing, and so on. So you have got exploration and engineering, which is practiced popularly across the world. Let's look at the configuration once again. So you have feasibility, where you do the investigation. You have foundation, wherein you do the planning. You have exploration, where you do the analysis of project requirements. So you take each user story, you explore it. So user story is completed, you go to engineering and you see how the design and development will be done. You again go back to the next story, do the analysis, and you go to engineering. So you can do exploration and engineering one after another, and then move to deployment. In the example 2, which is how mostly waterfall projects are done, you do all exploration first. That is, you do all the requirements gathering and refining of requirement in set of time boxes. When all the requirements are understood, you do the designing and development, and then you do integration and testing. This is a waterfall style, but the way we are bringing agile here is we are exploring the product is evolving, the requirements are being elaborated and fine tuned. Apart from that, we do it in a defined time box, like there is a time limit, and we keep checking how we are doing the requirements gathering. And the last one, the third one is where we have the hybrid model. We have exploration and engineering combined. So we do a little bit of everything within each time box. So that at the end of each time box, we can show some feature, working feature to the customer. It is possible that on a project, you might use one of them or a combination of them. For example, I started on a project which was to implement a CRM system at our customer's site. Initially, we wanted to understand the high level requirements and do a high level design for the project. So, what we did is we did some requirement analysis in a time box of 2 weeks each. When all the requirements were understood, we fleshed out a design, and later on we started doing exploration and engineering. So when you have a good understanding of the system, you start doing development. Or maybe in the release one, we went with the example two, and the further releases, we are able to build kind of features which could be developed uh, uh, kind of on their own. Like it's not, for example, setting up product alerts. So somebody wants, I want to watch out for products that are at offer. Now, this feature can be only built once search is available, or you have the user login functionality available, or authentication available, or maybe you have a product catalog and you start putting offers. Once these things are built, you can start building on enhancements and incremental functionality. You can use hybrid of them as well, but the third one is the most popular. Fourth one is used in the onshore offshore model. So this is also I have worked on. We had a product team onshore and a development team offshore. The product team was basically running through some time boxes to kind of uh, create user stories and specifications, and then they would pass it on to the offshore team who would do the design and development. While the offshore team is doing design and development of the first time box, the product team on site has already moved to the second time box. So they have started collecting requirements for the next time box for development team. So one team has a lead, they can pass on the work, and the other team starts working, and the first team moves to some other functionality. Now, that is practiced a lot in onshore offshore model, or where you have a separate business analysis team and then you have development team work handed over or outsourced to somebody else. You can configure life cycle based on your project requirements, environment, and complexity. Scrum also has a very similar one, but instead of calling names, etc., they have something called as sprint. And you can take sprints here called as time boxes to get all the work done. In short, if I have to explain you, somebody asks me an estimate, how long will you take to deliver this system? And I say 2 weeks for analysis, 2 weeks for design, 4 weeks for development, and 2 weeks for testing. So 2 weeks for analysis plus 2 weeks for design. That makes 4 weeks. 4 weeks for development. That makes it 8 weeks, and 2 weeks for testing. That makes it 10 weeks. So if I start, it will take me 10 weeks to show you something which is working. The third example here, where we combine exploration and engineering, what it tries to achieve is Instead of going back to the customer at the end of 10 weeks, we probably make a time box of 4 weeks each. In the first time box where we have got 4 weeks in hand, instead of doing analysis, design, development in the sequential manner and for entire requirements, we pick up some useful requirements, make a design, do development, do testing, and show something to the customer at the end of week 4. We start week 5, we pick up another requirements or defects or improvements from the previous time box, again do little bit of analysis, design, development, testing, and show something back to the customer at the end of second time box. So what happens is customer gets to see something working regularly, and based on that they can give you feedback which you can implement in the next time box. If your solutions are working and good to go on production, then customer also get early ROI, the return on investment. There is a very good phrase from Henry Ford. Henry Ford said about the first car designed in the 1900 by Ford. What he said is, if I had asked my users or the customers what they want, they would have said faster horses. And why would they say faster horses? Because at that time people didn't know about car. So if someone asks them, so what do you want that will kind of help you commute better, they would only think about horses, and they would say they should never tire. I mean they should keep on, and I should get to my destination quickly, and so on. But they wouldn't think about car, and that's how it happens on software products as well. So if somebody needs a solution, they can't exactly tell you what kind of solution they are looking for and how it should look like. They can tell you the problems. You make a solution, but instead of making full solution and going back to them, make a little bit of your prototype, show it to them. If they like it, or when they give you feedback, make some changes on your prototype. Then again, make some changes. Then makes so you are basically taking iterations of feedback loop and trying to improve upon your product. At what time you go to live is what you decide with the customer at the end of each time box. And that's how these life cycles help. When you are finished with all exploration engineering, you are ready to ship your product to life, which is where deployment comes in. So, your project, the deployment phase is more about the putting the system to go live, or making the product ready for shipping. Now there are many constraints like you have in real times. For example, uh, when can you actually deploy the system on live, like weekends or non activity times on your applications. Apart from that, you also have different teams who are responsible for doing the deployment on go live. So how do you hand it over to them? You got to give the knowledge transition, you got to give them the support information that tells them what order you have to do the release. Apart from that, the release notes, any outstanding issues, like if there is any defect or if there is any workaround available to kind of fix the defect. So you have to basically do some documentation where you capture the knowledge of the product from business point of view and from support point of view. You might also have some trainings to be done to the support people as well as to the business users, like how to use the system. So we had this handheld system which was supposed to replace the forms, which means I need to show the users how to use the handheld system. We have to give some user manual so that people can train and get inducted, because we won't be doing training through our life. They will have to take it on their own. So we have to probably give them some user documentation, workflows, etc. etc. We also had a production support team who wouldn't let us touch their production system, uh, because that was their ownership. So if they have to do the deployment, I got to give them all the knowledge necessary to basically deploy it. Apart from that, they also have to support it. post project. So they need to understand how is this application designed, what makes up this application, how we have designed it, how we have coded it, what to look if they get some defects. All of this needs to be also explained to them. Probably you might have to even do the documentation for it if it is part of your contract. Apart from that, you also make a plan that says after the deployment, what is the best time to go and look into the system to see has it solved our business problem, has it addressed it, and how effective the solution has been, whether it has brought the expected business benefits. So you have to make a plan for benefits realization. And finally, we need to do some retrospection at the project level. So we have to look at what we have learned during the various increments of this project. What's the learning? How we improve the future projects. So we make a lessons learned kind of a report that tells how do we improve in the next project. The deployment phase creates products such as project review report that says lessons, that says team performance, that says how the product was done, performance of assessment, evaluation, handovers, and so on. It also probably can talk about any outstanding issues from the project. Finally, it talks about any benefits that have been achieved during the project and what benefits are expected and the summaries. The deployed solution is your product itself. So if I have delivered a CRM application or a ERP system, the working ERP system on production is actually the deployed solution. And all the documents and whatever comes up with that system is actually my deployed solution. Deployment is actually production go live, how you do it, what is required to do a smooth transition from development to support or to the operations team. Once the deployment is completed, there are few things that you can do. If there is no more development remaining, you move to post project. If there is next release already planned and you have the requirements in the prioritized requirements list, you move to exploration to start collecting further details and doing analysis, design, development of next release. But if you do not have priorities or requirements or understanding of the next release, you move to foundations to make plan for the next release and to prioritize requirements and then move to exploration or engineering. And the fourth exit could be I can go back to exploration and start development. So you have multiple exit points once you have done the deployment. If I have completed all releases or if I have no further release for my project, I move to post project phase. Post project phase is actually the operations and maintenance phase of my project. This is where my product is operational, is being used by people, and I need to check if it has solved the business problem. I also need to check if the intended outcome has been achieved. I want to say what I want to see what benefits we have realized. If you remember during that deployment planning, we created benefits realization plan. As part of benefit realization plan, we use it and we check what benefits we have got. Typically, 3 to 6 months time is what people use in software applications and implementations to see how it has worked. Like we did couple of benefits realization reviews. One example is one of my customer in UK. They decided to offshore some of the application development. So it was supposed to be done in 6 months. So we did the offshoring of the application, and 6 months after the project is over, a review was conducted to see how offshoring has actually helped the organization. Did it help bring more flexibility and scalability of resources? Did it help to save any kind of costs and get more functionality developed in the same cost? Now, this is what is benefit realization. If I did that online product selling company, 6 months later, somebody will check. So, how many products we sold over a period of time? How much revenue we generated? How much benefits we made from the project? This is usually done by sponsor and visionary. Sponsor because he paid for the project and he wanted to ensure value for money. So now it's time for him to see what the sponsor has received, what the organization has achieved by doing the project. Whereas visionary's job is to find out whether the problem was solved and whether visionary's team enabled to get that outcome to the organization. If intended benefits have not come, then we have a good lesson learned in selecting projects. Post-project products include benefits assessment. This is actually the realization. So when you execute the benefits realization plan, you will find what benefits have been achieved or accrued, and then you kind of capture them, document them in a report. So you can say benefits assessment actually tells the company what we have got by doing this project. Life cycle of a turn includes 7 phases. The sequential phases are pre-project, feasibility, and foundations, whereas exploration and engineering is combined to provide iterative development method. Deployments could be separate. Post-project sequential with the last deployment. So after all releases, you might want to go and see how we have what we have achieved. The planning should be done incrementally, that is like the releases and the features that makes up. Usually we do enough design upfront during foundations and work on the details, that is the depth of solutioning and efforts and etc., as part of exploration and engineering. You can tailor both exploration and engineering to combine, or they can be used separately. Apart from that, pre-project feasibility foundations can also be tailored to be combined for projects that are small and internal. Generally, the first few phases, that is at least the pre-project, is very short, and exploration and engineering does most of the work of the project. That is basically a turn life cycles. Now, uh,
Yeah, because I will have to go and pick up the little one.
yes, sure. So we have this agile framework, the structure of a turn defined in that. The philosophy is to deliver on time, although we may not deliver everything. To support it, we have got principles, we have got processes, people, products, and practices. Principles are what must be done, processes is when and who, people is the roles that we use, product is the artifacts, and practices is the know-how. 8 principles, each principle brings specific value. All principles must be followed. Principle lay the foundation based on which we build agility. Processes is the framework or the life cycle. Some of them are hybrid, so pre-project, feasibility, foundation, exploration and engineering, deployment, and we move to post-project. So we'll take an idea, take it through feasibility, investigation, planning, development, putting it live, and then checking what we actually achieved. Each phase or process has set of work to do and have defined products. Obviously, we need people to do the work of project. We have 3 levels: project, solution development, and others. And we have various teams: business, management, and technical. Business interest is to pay and tell requirements. Technical interest or the solution interest is to design solution and deliver. And project management interest is basically to make it happen on time and within agreed budget. Agile products come out of all the phases that we use. Each phase has a defined product. Product could be a set of information, could be created physically, or could be maintained as part of information. Terms of reference comes out of pre-project. Then we have feasibility assessment and outline plan. Outline plan tells how foundation works and the high level of milestones and efforts and cost. As part of foundation, we lay foundation for business case, delivery plan, prioritized requirements, solutioning of the project, and how governance and reporting takes place. Then we go into exploration and engineering, which is actually the solution development team's work. Here we evolve the product. We make a time box plan to tell how each time box works, who does what, activities, efforts, and schedule. At the exit of time box, we create a review record that tells the retrospection and what was achieved. Solution assurance pack involves all the test cases, review comments, and the testing results that we have done. Evolving solution is the actual product that we create as part of development. When the product is ready, we go to deployment. We implement the solution on production. We do a review record to see how well we delivered the project, evaluated lessons, etc. When we go to post project, we use something called as benefits realization plan that was actually created in exploration and engineering. And we look at how well the project has achieved business objectives, whether it was successful and whether we have received benefits by doing this project. Finally, to do all the work defined, we need to have some kind of skills and know-how. Practices or techniques provides that. Facilitated workshop is to get a consensus and buy-in of stakeholders, usually used for requirement analysis, planning, and designing. Moscow prioritization is used to provide ranking to the requirements that we capture in the prioritized requirement list. Iterative development is how you develop the product in exploration and engineering. Modeling is about prototyping, and time boxing is about various sets of time boxes with defined number of days. It tells you what to do from the day one through day end, who does it, and how to run a time box. So that's how